Please remain standing after that for the pledge of allegiance, led by Alderman Payne.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, dear Lord. We thank you for this opportunity to meet together, Father, and discuss the city business. Give us wisdom and discernment as we go about our decisions tonight, Father. We ask all these things in your precious name, Christ Jesus.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first on the agenda this evening is the approval of minutes for the May 18, 2021 meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of May 18, 2021 with any additions, deletions, or corrections.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Brooks. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
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 That motion carries. Next on the agenda is MOU between the City of Southaven and the Mississippi Department of Health. Mr. Nick Manley, City Attorney.
Yeah, this MOU between the Department of Health and the city is just for the allowance of the emergency shelter to be used for vaccines. I think it's, the MOU is for 1 year, and it allows, obviously, the host of vaccines at that site. It's anticipated that it'll only be a couple months that they'll be there, and they've set up there to start administering vaccines at that location effective of today. So tonight is authorization for the mayor to sign the MOU. Can be canceled by any party at any time. So that's in that in the contract as well. But authorization for the mayor to sign this MOU.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Poots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
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 That motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is an amendment to our employee handbook.
Yeah, this amendment is an amendment that will allow for those who are working outside of the city, so outside employment from the city, they'll continue to be able to do that with the authorization of the mayor, which is still, that was already required. However, the amendment will require them to get authorization every new term. So in July of each new term, authorization will be to be obtained by the individual who has outside employment, and also allows the revocation of that employment at any time as well in the event of conflicts with that type of situation with the city job. So tonight authorization is needed for the amendment to the handbook. And also, just as a side note, Melanie's in the process of reviewing our entire handbook, and we'll be coming to you later this year, early next year, with a couple more revisions to the handbook as well. But we want to go ahead and get this one done before the new term. This will be effective July 1 for the employee authorization that's needed for outside employment.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion?
Just a quick question. Those aren't board votes as far as that goes. That's just a mayor's approval. But that has to be redone every 4 years.
Correct.
Well, what you're voting on is you're changing the handbook. It will be administratively handed by the mayor of the
Right.
city.
Those decisions don't come before the board. Those are administrative.
Correct. Currently, the handbook allows for currently the handbook requires mayor approval for any outside employment. This would just require that approval every new term. That way it doesn't lapse for years and years and years. I know the department heads are looking into that. I think there'll be some, but I think a lot of it will be in the fire department probably from that standpoint. I don't know the exact number, but they are getting that information and we should have it by the middle of June before July.
We discussed that at department head meetings. The department heads have already been asked to give us a list of who the people are in their departments. So before that approval is given, there'll be a list of all the departments. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
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 my volume good?
Is the mic on?
I've got this device. I've got this device. Will you check it for me? Let's make sure that.
You want to swing it around?
No, I'm not using this. I'm using the other that I've been using.
Yeah, it's on the end.
Yeah. Will you check it for me? Make sure it's good. We'll go ahead and move while he's doing that. Next on the agenda is authorization to apply for American Rescue Plan funds.
And this is the authorization.
Right, it's the following. Okay, we're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is just authorization to apply for the American Rescue Plan funds that they're coming through the Congress as part of the bill that's been passed by the United States Congress and signed by the President. So tonight we have authorization for E to apply for those funds. And then over the next couple weeks, months, her and the mayor work together to find out the best use of those funds in accordance with the Treasury guidelines that will be handed down from the Department of Treasury. Tonight, just authorization to apply for funds and get the funds in the city.
We have a motion from Alderman Flores, second from Alderman Wheeler. I'll start the discussion, just update the board. Obviously, there've been a lot of moving parts to this, many unknowns, to what is going to qualify, what's not. So we started this months ago when we first found out that it was going to be a possibility. But as Nick said, we'll continue finding out exactly what qualifies. We've already got a pretty good idea. Then we'll lay out a priority list to you guys, and then you'll be obviously the ones that decide where the money goes. But we'll make a recommendation to you after we find out exactly what qualifies and what doesn't. So that's being worked on right now.
We'll have to find out what qualifies in terms of.
Well, yes, the amount I can go ahead and tell you is about half of what we initially told it was going to be. So we'll be working, with those parameters, and then we'll take it and find out what qualifies based on the guidelines on things that we could do, and then we'll make a list and then present that to the board to set their priorities. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next on the agenda is approval of a revised facilities use policy.
This revised policy will just allow for the soccer fields, softball fields, and baseball fields to be used as part of the facilities use in accordance with the policy and for the rates set forth in the policy. It does delete the Greenbrook Pavilion, and so that will no longer be in there in the tennis center as well. So tonight is authorization to approve this revised facilities use policy so it can be implemented by the Parks Department.
Mr. Mayor, move to accept the revised city facility policy.
We have a motion from Alderman Brooks, second from Alderman Payne. Again, I'll start the discussion. One of the things that prompted this, as Nick stated, obviously the facility at the Greenbrook Park had become a major problem from a crime standpoint. But the other driving factor here is the fact that, as y'all know, we put artificial turf on the Greenbrook softball fields, snow baseball fields. Everyone's excited about that. Everyone wants to get on the new fields. So with the turf, it's a lot easier for the city to maintain the fields. When you don't have real dirt, there's not as much maintenance, where you're pressed for time to get the fields ready for either a regular game or a competitive tournament game. So we feel like we can expand the public use. That's something y'all heard me say before. Our parks directors heard me talk about it. I love to see kids get on the field and play. I mean, I don't want to see them field, a $6 million cost of fields at both complexes sit with nobody on them. Obviously, we can't just open them up. There has to be some scheduling involved because of all the tournaments and all the the rec games that we have. But what we're going to try to do during times of the year where it's more flexible for us, we're going to allow people to rent the fields, and so that's where that kind of birthed this idea. And so we want to be able to get allow the teams to use the fields more, both in Greenbrook and Snow. One other thing, and Nick, do we have this, and forgive me, because I don't know if we were doing this with two-tiered, but do we have this in there where we're allowing, I just want to make a suggestion that the money that goes, the rental money, that it be held in escrow in another bank account, because we know with the turf, about every 12 years, you have to resurface the turf. It's very expensive to do that. So as we allow more use of the fields, obviously it puts more wear and tear on the fields, which brings us quicker to that time where it has to be resurfaced. So my suggestion is that we put this money in an escrow type account and allocate that money to be used to resurface the fields. So do we have this in there or not?
What we're gonna do on this is pass a facility use policy, and as part of the motion, authorize the escrowing of the funds to you from the softball and bringing baseball to be then escrowed as part of, strictly for the turf. So that being the motion, we can also add it to the facility use policy if you want to as well.
Well, as long as the board will have
It'll
to
be
approve
part of
that.
the board action tonight.
Right, so that would be asking for two things in tonight. First of all, to approve the policy, and then also to approve, putting the money in escrow. I just think. Okay, and again, the reason for that is, this board knows that there have been many situations in the past, where the city had big expenditures in the future, and it was kind of like nobody made plans for that, and so then it was kind of dumped in our lap, and it gets challenging when there's no planning. So this is a way that we can be smart financially, plan for this, because we know the day is coming. So whomever is here in these seats at that time, they will have seen that we prepared for that. Obviously, if you're charging $100 for an hour and a half, it's going to take some time for you to accumulate much money there, but it's a start. I think it also just sends the message that we know we got this expense looming out there, so let's go ahead and have a plan, a way to start the funding for it. So Alderman Brooks amended his motion to add the escrow account, and we'll have a separate bank account for that. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Got a second, Alderman Payne, and then more discussion.
Can we do anything, I mean, I know we got that, that's a good thing, like you said, it's gonna probably fall short. Can we do something with some of the tournament money and something like that, like take a percentage if we put in that same account?
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, that's
That'd be taken away from already, those proceeds that go back into the parks and general fund.
correct, right. Yeah, so you do have, the parks money that Alderman Hoots is talking about has already been used, to fund our annual budget for parks, not just at Snowden. Again, the money earned at Snowden is used to subsidize all the neighborhood parks as well. So we do need to keep, I would think we need to keep most of that money in the annual budget to subsidize our other parks. But it's something we can certainly look into as we can always go back and add that.
It's a budget season all the time.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for information technology and emergency communications surplus property.
Yeah, this is just surplusing pursuant to 172525.
Mr. Mayor, I move the motion declare surplus property in the department.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Payne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution to clean private property.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt a resolution granting authority to clean private property as presented on the
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion among the board? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience that has a financial interest in any of the properties that would like to speak? Hearing or seeing none, roll call please.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is our planning agenda. Ms. Whitney Cook, our planning director.
Yes, our first application is for design review approval for that mixed-use building that we discussed at the last board meeting. It was at DeSoto Central's PUD on the south side of Nail Road. On the west side, we have about 3-story mixed-use building with an office on the bottom floor, lofts on the top floor. What you have in front of you tonight of the elevations and the design and the layout of what they want it to look like. There was a lot of discussion for screening purposes, berms, fencing, and materials to be used on it. It was voted unanimously, I'm sorry, not unanimously, it was voted 7-1 at the planning commission as submitted.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend that we approve item number 1 on the planning commission.
Second. We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion on item 1? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hudson.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Item number 2 is actually for 2 locations. It is for the Whataburger restaurant that has been announced to come into Southaven. Obviously, the one has been announced on Goodman Road where the TGI Fridays is presently. It's going to be demoed and rebuilt as a Whataburger. There's an additional Whataburger that I believe the mayor knows about. I don't know if it's been announced officially through everybody else, but it's just south of Chick-fil-A on Gatwell Road. So the design review that you have in front of you are the elevations for both of them. There were some comments regarding the materials. We worked through that before we got to the formal presentation to the planning commission. There were some adjustments to the landscaping, decorative lighting added in, and per Alderman Gallagher's request, especially down the Gatwell Road corridor, we asked to have bike racks placed on site. They did concede to that, so it was voted unanimously in favor for both sites.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend that we approve item number 2 on the planning commission.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by the rest of the board. Second by Alderman Payne, how about that?
Okay.
Any discussion?
Can you tell we're excited?
I have a good question.
Yes.
Was there any conversations or discussion about traffic?
Absolutely. There was discussion on both sites. The first site, the Goodman Road site, obviously, there was some concerns about getting in and out on Malco Boulevard. I had to explain to the planning commission that that's a DOT road. We're not in control of the traffic signals, but they have a spacing requirement between traffic signals. So obviously that was one we couldn't control. I did inform them that we are currently looking at an additional light on Moore Drive on Airways to see if it's possible to add a light on the north side of Airways, but that is based on the conditions of the traffic analysis. They were okay with that. I mean, like I said, if you're there, you're gonna know to go to Malco and then head out Airways. You'll figure out a way to get to that one.
As far as the design of the property and everything, what about, Chick-fil-A's did a great job of how they circle their traffic around?
Right. It's very similar. We actually, when Chick-fil-A came in, we did the same thing. We found a way to stack more on site so they didn't go out into the roadways. So what both sites, Whataburger did, we have two lanes, just like you have with Chick-fil-A, and you also have an escape route, an escape lane on the outside, so that if you do decide you don't want to wait, or if you're trying to get out, you're not in the drive-through, there's a way to get around it. There's also an ingress egress on the north and south sides to the one on Gatwell Road, so if for whatever reason Chick-fil-A and Whataburger, everybody wants a burger and some chicken at that point in time, stacking could remain on those ingress egresses and not go into Gatwell Road. So we feel like the flow would be appropriate.
I'll add to that, Whitney did a good job with that with Chick-fil-A. It's proven to be very successful. That's one of the most high traffic areas in the state of Mississippi, at Goodman and Getwell, and that was Chick-fil-A coming there has worked well with the queuing, the length of the queuing and the lanes, and we believe it'll be the same way with Whataburger. The other comment, I've only answered a million questions about the other one, about there being a light at Malco Boulevard right there on Goodman. And as Whitney stated, just to kind of add to that, that area is so close to Goodman and Airways, you can't put a light there. If you think it's a traffic nightmare now, and you put a light there, then you got a cluster mess right there with two lights right there that close together. So that cannot be done there. And then I would just finally add that to get developments like this, the reason they come is because of traffic. People say, well, you know this is going to be a traffic problem. Of course we do, and so do they. That's why they're coming. They want to be in the middle of traffic, and it is proven by their business model that people are not shying away from the traffic to go eat their food. So
They want to see the line going out the driveway.
Yeah, and again, as y'all know, they have their business model. They pick their location on the location that fits their business model best. City of Southaven, pick where they go. So those two locations are two of the highest traffic areas in the city, and they feel like it fits their business model well. And we are the one that is cracking the Memphis market open for them. I understand that they have plans to, to expand into Memphis, and they're already trying to expand into Nashville, Tennessee. But I think it speaks well of our city that we were the first one to crack open the Memphis market again and bring it to locations. So it is a big deal. It's a fast food restaurant, but it's still something I can assure you that excites a lot of people. And both locations are gonna do well in Southaven.
Bar strip right here on Sunday.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on item 2? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Item number 3 is a minor subdivision, a subdivision revision to the Bonner Edwards subdivision. This is going to be on Reed Road, east of Getwell. They're taking lot 1A, which is currently 2.97 acres, splitting it into 2 lots, 1.31 acres and 1.66 acres. They've shown the setbacks on the proposed plat recording. We did check the covenants, restrictions. There were some restrictions on lot 1B and 1C, none on 1A, so it is compliant with subdivision regulations, the zoning requirements, and was voted unanimously in favor of.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve item number 3 on the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Wheeler, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion on item 3? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries.
The next application we've got is, again, a revision to a subdivision. This is going to be for Plum Point Villages subdivision, north side of Church Street, west of 55. It's lot 14, more specifically the Waffle House lot. It currently encompasses 4.651 acres. They're wanting to carve out the portion that has the Waffle House on it and leave that as a 0.76 acre parcel and capture the rest of the 3.8 acres in a vacant lot to sell off for development. It is compliant with commercial subdivision regulations and was voted unanimously in favor of by the planning commission.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion we approve item number 4 on the planning agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Brooks. Is there any discussion on item 4? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Our last application is a minor subdivision application. It's going to be on the south side of College Road, west side of Brackett Road, in an agricultural zone. Family-owned property consisting of 4.56 acres. They're simply wanting to divide it into 3 lots with 1.52 acres and leave the remaining property on a parcel. Since it's a minor subdivision, there's no road improvements required, and it does have the requirements for a minor being 3 lots agriculturally zoned. It was compliant with comprehensive plan as well, so the application was voted unanimously by the planning commission.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend we approve item number 5.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion on item 5? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is mayor's report. Just quickly tonight, there's one piece of business that we need to do. Did you get the number?
Well, we're going back and forth, but I think 20,000, you can have it
Okay.
there, that would be easy.
Okay, what we need to do, the monument sign that we have planned at State Line and Getwell, to have that properly positioned, we are gonna have to buy a piece, an easement there from a private property owner. We have money in the budget for that, but up to what we'll need is, I'll need the authority to purchase and accept the easement up to an amount of $20,000, so we can negotiate that with the private property owner. And then when we get that, we have the sign designed now. When we get the actual easement, we'll give that back to the architect where they can tweak that, and then we'll be ready to build that sign. But we do need to purchase a piece of land there at Getwell and State Line in order to build the sign.
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion by Alderman Flores,
Second.
second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any other discussion?
Where exactly is that going to be located at?
when you're going southbound on, Getwell, it's actually, we tried to put it in an open area, but you got a lot of, y'all know, every time we try to build these monument signs, there's all kinds of grading issues, and you got, power lines over there. So there's a big area that opens up that's a perfect place for it, but it's underneath a power line. So we couldn't do that. So then we walked the site. Then we had the design kind of tweaked a little bit to get it as much on, public right of way as we could, but there's still not enough room. So we still gotta buy a little piece, but it's a much smaller. But, long way to answer your question, but it's further south towards state line. So like right as you're approaching, the traffic signal at state line, it's gonna be on your right. And it'll be tilted angle where it faces the southbound traffic on the Getwell. Be a beautiful sign, just like the others that y'all seen.
How big is the land?
How big is it, Whitney?
It's 562 square feet. Well, it's just a tiny little thing that we need. We're encroaching onto our right of way, but we just kind of crept over onto their side too, so we just need where to put turn signs.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. That's all I have this evening. Are there any questions for me about anything? Hearing none, we'll move on. Our next on our agenda is our personnel document.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve personnel documents presented on this day. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on our agenda is our city attorney's legal update.
Just real quick, at the previous meeting, we approved the lease and terms with NBA for the arena. So tonight, authorization, or doesn't need authorization, just to make a note that that lease will be entered in the minutes tonight with NBA for the $12,500 per month pursuant to the bid at the last meeting that was approved by the board. So,
Thank you. Next on the agenda is our utility bill adjustment document.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the utility bill leak adjustment docket as presented on this day.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Is that discussion?
No.
Okay.
No.
So the new smart meters will help prevent this from happening.
Sure, it's gonna allow you to know
Right.
about problems.
So they'll go beforehand, or they'll go beforehand.
I got a question. Who's the, Church Road East, what we say, right? And it says the reason is 15 Church Road East.
Randy.
Ray, can you come forward, Ray?
Yes.
You understand what his question is?
I didn't hear.
He's, in the column to the far right for reason for leak adjustment, on number 50, it says the reason is 50 Church Road East. It doesn't give a reason, it just has an address.
Leak Incorporated.
So I don't remember, I saw the form on it. That was, I think it's right there, close to Elmore. They had certain findings busted out in the parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
And then the tanks there.
Were there any others that anybody had any questions about? Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. And just an update, you asked about the automated 48% of those have already been converted. So we're making great progress on that. Okay, next on the agenda, is one claims docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the claims docket in the amount of $2,153,705.67, including demand checks.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hughes.
Yes.
Alderman Rainey.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the purpose of determining the need for executive session.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The need this evening is claims and litigation against the Southaven Police Department, Parks Department, and Utilities Department, Police Department personnel, and economic development within the city. Is there a motion to declare executive session?
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Payne. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The mayor and board will now enter executive session.